What could I give you that is probably the most valuable thing that I can give you? So I thought about that and I came up with what I'm just about to tell you. So hopefully it'll help you. There was a study done by psychologists at the University of Hertfordshire, and they went to Edinburgh City and they dropped 240 wallets. They're almost identical apart from a couple of variables, and they tracked whether they were sent back and they tracked the results. And so basically the variables that they had, 42% came back, by the way, so we do live in a bit of an honest world. The address for the return address was inside the wallets, a little bit of cash, but nothing else significant, except there was a smiling baby, a photograph of a smiling baby in in some of the wallets, a cute puppy, a happy family, a contented elderly couple, or no image whatsoever. And so they tracked the percentage of those wallets that came back. Okay, so the percentage that came back of the baby, actually, baby, or babby as we say in Scotland. Then the puppy, picture of the puppy, the family, there's two kids and a happy family, and the elderly couple, and no image. Okay, so the percentage of wallets that came back that had the baby in it was 88%. Okay, so if you learn nothing from this, put a smiling baby in your wallet and you might get it back. The puppy was next at 53%. Okay, so people love puppies more than they love happy families. Happy family was 48%, and the elderly couple was just 28%. And no image. You don't tug on anyone's heartstrings, you're not going to get your wallet back anytime soon. Okay? So what does this teach us apart from putting a picture of a baby in your wallet? Well, it teaches us that if you change the picture, you change the results. If you change the way that you see things, you change the way that you act. Okay? Or if you change the way that you help people see things, change the way that they act. You can change human behavior by what they see. Okay? All right, so in this course, I'm going to basically attempt to give you a different perspective on what you're doing. Okay, so in this course you learn a lot of things. Give me some of the things that you're learning. Tie, okay? Just let's talk about teaching English, actually.
All right.
But tie is actually part of it. So, okay, tie, yes, tie, that's part of it. It's connected in my head. I'll talk about that in a minute. What else do you learn? What are you learning? Yes? Classroom management. Okay, great. Lesson planning, awesome. How to think on your feet. Okay, great. Is that it? Activities and games. Teacher talk time. Okay, great. So I'm going to split up what you're teaching to try and help you to see things a bit more clearly. You are learning two different types of things. Principles. You're learning principles and you're learning tactics. Before I give my definition of what I think that is, what do you think that is? What's the difference between a principle and a tactic?
Principle is like or whatever, where there's not like a defined way to do it, but it's like an emotional response of the next one or something.
I think you're getting there.
I'd say like the principles say on your first day when you set up like classroom rules and your tactics of how you try to get your students to adhere to the classroom rules.
I'm trying to look. It's good. It's not how I would define it. Right. I think you're getting closer to what I'm... So she said that a principle is like an idea and a tactic is like the action. Okay, so you're getting closer to what I would say.
So principles like kind of your values in teaching and the objective of teaching?
Okay, so you're saying like values and objectives, okay? Okay.
I would say objectives would be like principles and like tactics would be like how you get there.
Okay. By the way, this is the Gospel of Mike. So these are all good answers. It's not exactly what I would say, but let me just give you my opinion. So a principle is something that can be generally applied. Okay? A tactic is something that is a lot more specific and uses principles. So for example, you've already said some principles right now. Classroom management principles. You've learned some classroom management principles. Okay? So one principle of classroom management is that you have rules. Okay, if you have rules. And if you apply that, you can apply that generally to a lot of different things. Rules help us to avoid chaos, right? So if you focus on the principles that you're learning, you can develop the tactics. A tactic there would be no chewing gum in class. That's a principle applied. Okay, so a tactic is a principle applied in the Gospel of Mike. Okay, so, and it's not only in the Gospel of Mike, I've learned it from someone else. So principles can help us in our daily life. There's lots of things like, I'll give you a tactic, you tell me the principle. Brush your teeth. What's the principle? Good hygiene, right? Good hygiene. But good hygiene means, it's like good hygiene means, like you won't, like good teeth hygiene means that you won't lose your teeth. Like there's one principle, right? So what about a worksheet for primary? What teaching principles would be involved in a worksheet for a primary class? Maybe I'm not teaching this very well. Lindsay?
It could be a good assessment to check that they know what tactics you can use in the teach.
Assessment.
Yeah.
Assessment.
Yeah.
Assessment. That's the principle. Okay. So you're assessing them. The assessment is a massive principle in teaching. So these are the principles that I want you to focus on when you're learning from Kaylee and from Rachel. You're learning assessment. Okay, so right now I'm assessing that you're not getting this well, so I'm assessing that I'm not teaching it very well. Okay, so I need to think of it a different way, and this is what you'll feel like in your classroom as well. You'll have blank faces and you'll be like, okay, is it them, is it me? Well, I can't control what they're doing, so I need to try and adapt it a bit better. Okay, so assessment. Now, there are formal assessments and there are informal assessments. Right now, show me, out of a finger of 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, how much you're understanding right now. Put your hand up. Okay, so I've just done an informal assessment. All right, so now I know that there are some people that aren't getting this, some people that are getting it. And that's also what you could do in the classroom. So you can call it different things. Like assessment here, you could call listening. You could call reading, like you're reading your class. But if you learn the principles, then the tactics come naturally. Do you know what I mean? If you know, like, if you don't learn the principle, you won't have a clue what the heck you're doing when you learn the tactics. If you learn the tactics, but you don't learn the principle, you won't be able to generally apply it to other things and become a better teacher. Okay, but when you learn the principles, it becomes much, 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 much easier. Much, much easier. Okay, so another one was classroom management, okay? So we could call it classroom management. So here I'm just going to put listening, reading. And we could call it classroom management. By the way, principles are truth. Principles are truth. They're true. True things that work. That's basically what a principle is, if you want to assure it. So classroom management, you could also put order or discipline. Or, did you say something? No? Okay. Order or discipline. Or rules. Okay? Now, if you do not adhere to the principle, what will happen? Let's say, for example, we said, my kids here? All my kids gone? Okay. So let's say one of the rules was no skinny dipping. All right? I think that is a rule. Was that one of the rules?
Yeah.
Anyway, but then let's say on the first night everyone went skinny dipping. And then the trainer was like, trainer went skinny dipping as well. What's the outcome of that rule? What's the outcome of, what happens? Do you respect the trainer? The trainer was the one that gave you the rule, by the way.
No, you don't. The rule goes out the window.
So all the rules go out the window. It's like, well, if you don't keep one rule, you don't enforce one rule, it's not a rule. Like, if you don't enforce the rule, it isn't actually a rule at all. It's just a statement. Do you know what I mean? So the rule becomes into effect when it's actually, you've got the punishment, or it doesn't have to be a harsh punishment, but it just needs to be some sort of consequence, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is that the principles are timeless. If you live by the principles that you're being taught, you will have a much more successful career as a Tefl teacher. Okay, so I'll leave that one till last. I'm going to put another one here. Confidence. Is confidence a principle? Could it be a principle? In my head, it's a principle. If I stood up here not confident in what I'm saying, so it's a principle, right? So if I'm not confident, the consequence is you're generally not confident if you're relying on me. So does this work in the classroom? Because this is all about classrooms. Does this work in the classroom? So there are times when I'm standing up here and I'm not confident. You might not think that, but I'm standing up here sometimes and I'm not confident. Because confidence is not permanent. Confidence isn't a permanent thing. You're forever thinking, is this working? Do they believe me? Do they like me? Does this work? Is this even useful? You're forever thinking that. But here is a principle for you for the classroom. Fake it till you make it. Even if you're not confident, be confident. Just be confident, and things will work out, and you'll see things working for you. Okay, and my wife did this when she moved to a new school. She was very nervous around people, and she's actually quite a shy person. She's kind of not so shy now, but when she was younger, she was really shy. When I met her, the whole night she didn't speak a word, not one word. First time I met her. And trying to date her was difficult as well, because I'd ask a question and she'd give me one-word answers, so that was hard. But maybe it's because she didn't like me at the same time, that's actually true. But didn't like me in a romantic way. But anyway, that's another story. But when she moved to a new school when she was 13, she knew she was shy, and so what she did was she pretended she wasn't. So she was chatty with as many people as she could be, and she made friends really quickly. And so fake it till you make it really work for her. Okay, so there's one really big... So I'm going to ask you now, actually, and maybe the trainers can get involved as well. What are some other principles? Hopefully I've taught this correctly. If you get it wrong, it's my fault. What are some other principles that you can see that can be generally applied to teaching English? Preparation, excellent. So lesson planning or just preparation in general, okay? Now, let me tell you something. You always need preparation, even if you think you're not prepared. Even if you're 2 years into being a teacher, and you go, I don't need to prepare, I'll just go and teach. Well, actually, you spent 2 years freaking preparing. No wonder you can go and teach. You don't need to prepare on a piece of paper. That's not preparation. That's just writing down your preparation. You're already prepared because you've already got experience. You already know what you're doing. So you always need preparation, always, whether it's written down or not. But when you are actually a more qualified teacher, it's great because you don't have to sit down and write it out. You know what you're doing. So that's a brilliant one. Thank you very, very much for that one. What are some other principles? Flexibility and adaptability. So you could say, like, you could call it flexibility, you could call it adaptability, you could call it patience with yourself. You could call it faith that it's going to work out if it's going wrong. Because you will have some bad lessons, let me tell you that. Even as an experienced teacher, right? You will have some bad lessons, and you will come out and was it you that was talking? Was it you that said that?
Probably.
Could tell me what you said when I said yeah. So you have some good lessons, you have some bad lessons, and then you said something that I was like, yeah, that's true. You're like you hate, like didn't you say like afterwards?
You learn from it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what I said, but
How you felt? You said how you felt.
more challenged, I guess. I don't know.
Was it not you that I can't remember who? Anyway, someone recently, maybe it wasn't you, said yeah, after a bad lesson, you feel miserable. The kids.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
Was it me and you?
I was just saying how we kind of like it wasn't necessarily a bad lesson, but maybe I didn't prepare well, but also the kids were just totally rambunctious, and they made me mad. Like they were mad, I was mad, everyone was mad. They weren't listening. They didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
I was like, what can I do to literally get them to listen for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
And it pisses you off too.
It's absolutely soul destroying. It's soul destroying, and so you need to pick yourself up from that. So that's another principle that you need to apply. Okay, I'm losing Darren here. I'm losing him, so we need to bring this up a little bit. Okay, so there's one big one. Respect. Okay, yeah.
Not the biggest one. I think.
Respect. So respect, I would put that in classroom management, but
I think it's the biggest for everything.
yeah, but respect too, right? Like respect yourself and RESPECT. Yeah,
I know.
exactly. Sing that when things are going wrong. There's a really, really big one. It affects everything to do with teaching. If you get it, you win a tumble dryer.
I was going to say attitude.
Attitude. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Would you say a good attitude? Yeah. Attitude. We talked about attitude, didn't we, for the training of the trainers? That was the very first thing, Megan. That was the very first thing that I taught the trainers. I said, because you know the trainers actually get training before they come here. We talk and we mould them into what we want. No, they're already quite good. But we had attitude, and what was it under that? The two words on the board, attitude and... Kaylee gave us the answer during this. So, attitude and ability. Okay.
Yeah.
So say you're here to help with their attitude and their ability. Which is the fastest you can change? Their attitude. They're changing their ability at the same time, but it's faster to change their attitude. We're talking about your attitude. We're like, you're here to mould their attitudes. But a little bit of a sneak peek into the training of the trainers there. Don't tell anyone. Right. There's another big one, a really, really big one. I'm not getting much of it right now with this question. Rapport. I think I've got rapport. I've definitely got rapport. Patience. Patience is no, that's true though. You do need patience for sure. You need patience. Rapport is actually the big one that I was going to. That's bigger than the other big one I was talking about. But let's talk about rapport. So rapport, okay. But I definitely have got rapport with this group. I do have rapport with this group. But right now, I'll give you what it is. Are you going to give me it? Engagement. Engagement. I don't have engagement right now because all it is question answer. It's early in the morning. We've just been singing Baby Shark. So I'm going to put here, like this is actually a principle, rapport, okay? So teaching is all about the relationship. It's all about a relationship. That's all it is. Like we teach each other every day. Like when you have a good relationship, you can learn from someone. When you have a not so good relationship, where you don't trust someone, you can't really learn anything from someone that you don't trust. It's very hard. So building a relationship, a rapport, can help you with anything. And then the last one here, I'm going to put it on the tactics side, even though it should be there, is engagement. Okay. Now this is a big one, and I want to talk to people who are talking about Matium, because I know that some people are feeling a little bit unprepared because they feel like the course isn't very Mattheum based. And I want to explain a little bit about this, maybe to change the picture in your mind to help you see it in a different way. One of the reasons why there are so many games in this course is because of what? To get engagement. There's engagement, not engagement with you, but it's so that you can take those games and you can engage the students. Now, what you might not know yet, or you might know it, is that, like, right now the perspective in your mind is that Mattheum students, they're not going to have as much fun as the primary ones. And the trainers might say, well, actually, you can play the same games with them and they do like it. But that might not, because of your culture, fit in your head. Because you're like, well, when I was a teenager, I didn't want to be treated like a baby. Do you know what I mean? But Thai kids are a lot different. They actually engage a lot more with games. But even if they don't, it doesn't matter. You don't need to play games with them. You can play quizzes. You can do hangman. You could do loads and loads of different tactics. But whatever tactic you use, the purpose of it is just to get engagement. It's just to get engagement. All you really want to do is get them to speak the language. And the only way to get them to learn is to have them engaged. So there's a guy that I know, he's called Aaron Screeton, and he came to the welcome day, he was dawdling around. You might have talked to him, you might not have. But I brought him to Thailand about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now. But before he came, I knew him pretty well, and I knew he'd be a brilliant teacher. And the reason why I knew he'd be a brilliant teacher, and I convinced him on the phone, I was like, look, you'd be ace at this, you'd be amazing at this. And when I was saying it, I was like, oh, I hope I am right, because you know what I mean? He'll come in and be like, oh, I'm not good. And he was amazing. He still is amazing as a teacher. And he's progressed, and he recognizes that now. And he loves it so much that he's progressed. He's got a master's in TESOL now. He's got about a CELTA, another TEFL. He's got our TEFL, another TEFL, and a CELTA, master's in TESOL. Now he was a PhD in TESOL. I think he's going a bit too far, to be honest. He loves his qualifications. And he keeps talking to me about all the things he's learned. He's much more advanced than me, and I'm just like, man, I'm not even interested. He's trying to get engagement with me. He's like, yeah, and the phonetics, and I'm like, oh man, just listen to him, okay. But if you see him teaching, you would be amazed. He can get engagement out of any class. He doesn't need to play any games whatsoever. He does play games, but he doesn't need to. All the students are 100% engaged all the time in his classes. He has just got this personality that is just attractive. He's just an attractive character. And he can just go in any class, he can teach it, he teaches it effectively. He has mastered the art of engagement. And he doesn't need any preparation at this point. So he's mastered that art, but there are other principles that he's mastered as well that help him with his engagement. And the biggest one is rapport. So when he was on the Tefl course, right, I knew he'd be good, but he showed me how good he was. When they were at the English camp, all the trainees were chatting together because they valued the relationship with each other, and you guys do. But at break time, what was he doing? He was chatting with the kids. He was the only one that was chatting with the kids. He was building rapport with the kids. He was loving it. He was loving the relationship with the kids. And because they knew that he cared about them, they loved him. And every school that he leaves, all the girls cry. And the boys get upset as well, but the girls bawl their head off because he's quite good looking as well, but he needs to lose a bit of weight. But no, a bit like me. Really try hard, then people will be attracted to you and they'll want to learn from you. And you know that it's a relationship, right? Teaching is a relationship. So if you want, teaching is just influencing, right? Teaching is just influencing. You got a question, though? I thought you were going to reinforce what I was saying there, but
I totally agree, though.
Yeah. So it's just influencing, okay? So if you build rapport, this is the big one, so well done, Alan Hogan. You win a holiday to the Bahamas for that. Apart from you said that I had no rapport, so that was a bit... But I know what you meant, but it was engagement that I was lacking. Now, if I maybe did this in a different way, maybe I would have got more engagement, maybe you would have learned more. Okay.
I think that in order to create rapport, you need respect.
Yes.
And that's why I think respect is the overlapping biggest principle.
Okay. I like what you did there.
Anything else without respect.
I like what you did
With
there.
mutual respect.
Okay, so let's put rapport and respect on the same line.
Yeah.
Can we negotiate?
We'll negotiate.
Okay. So rapport and respect, okay? I would put goodwill in there. I'd put paying attention. I'd put listening. I'd put sacrifice. Like you have to sacrifice your own desires to build rapport. Like you give up part of yourself to share with another person. Is this all going in? Tell me if you agree with this out of 5 in your hands. Okay, and tell me if you feel like this is valuable, this out of 5. Like, is this valuable information? Samantha says with a yawn. It's because I've not got enough engagement. What could I have done to make this more engaging? If you can give me some more feedback, or is it just that time of the morning? Like, what do you think? What could I have done?
I think it's hard to fish for answers that you expect, Like we kind of don't know what you're thinking, so it's hard to guess.
So, and I'm okay. I can expose myself here, right? Because I'm fine with being criticised for my teaching techniques. Do you think it's because I don't create a safe enough environment? No? It's okay if I haven't. Because maybe I haven't. Because do you feel like you can answer and not feel like you're going to be judged or like...
Yeah. I feel like we can say it easily, but
maybe it's my questioning.
One and we say one and you're like, it's good, but not what I'm thinking about.
Right. So no, but that's a good point. So it might be... So when Brandon said that, I was totally looking for something that was right there, but I couldn't, and I totally failed. I was like, it's not what I wanted. When I say right, I mean in my head. That's why I was like, it's a Gospel of Mike. It might be different from what you think. So it's hard sometimes to build a positive atmosphere but there are always good things that. So this is part of teaching, right? But I know also my business partner says this all the time. Sometimes I'm not clear in my communication, and that's something I need to improve. Like maybe I could have asked the question differently, or maybe I could have given you an example, a better example, or a story, and then asked the question, so that then you have something to go on, rather than just me asking a question out of nowhere, right? So that's what I'm learning right now. I'm learning from what you just said. Is there anything else that I could have made it, somehow could have made it more engaging?
I like the
Adeline?
story idea, giving you an example of the classroom and being like, all right, well, what was wrong with that situation? Or what was right with that situation? What you have done to build your rapport better? Or what in that story was a good example of rapport? So we're engaged, so we're not just I don't know. This is hard to be here and we're in the middle of paradise. But
no, that's definitely something. And I only had a couple of minutes to prepare this. I actually woke up at 4 a.m. feeling all agitated. I was like, what will I teach them that's valuable? And I wrote all the notes down at 4 a.m. and then tried to go back to sleep. I was all wired. So I know the principles, but how to teach it is harder for me. Do you know what I mean? So I know what I want you to learn, but transmitting that into your brain and into your heart is my challenge. And getting engagement. So it's hard to get all these things at the same time. I've tried to build rapport just by being myself and being vulnerable as well, just exposing my life to you guys. And I'm opening everything up to you, right? I try not to hold things back. I get in trouble sometimes because I do say some things that I shouldn't say. And I used to kick myself and say, crap, I shouldn't have said that. But now I just think, I've not been able to improve, so I'm just going to stay the way I am. But then maybe that's a defeatist attitude. Nothing went terribly wrong over the years. I have got confidence, although at times, even during this teaching session, I have wavered, but you haven't noticed that, I hope. Preparation is probably the thing that I needed to prepare more. I know the principles, but I don't know the stories enough. The story about changing the picture, which changes the results or changes the behaviour, that was the most prepared out of everything that I've said today. That was the first bit. I got that bit down and it was right, we have to go. Oh, no. So I just had to make the rest up. I knew the principles, but I didn't know what I was going to say. Anyway, so hopefully that is valuable to you. So there's one more thing. Any other questions before we move on to something really quickly, just for a couple of minutes? Any other questions about this? No? Good. Okay. Great. All right. So teaching is a relationship. And when you're teaching Mattium, I'll just hammer the point again, it's the relationship that matters. It's the engagement that matters with the Mattium. So just think of like things that you can do, like quizzes, posters. You can get them in groups, and you can get them to do like draw a picture of whatever the language is. Then they do a presentation, and then they talk about it. But to be honest, and you would have heard this already, in Thailand, you could have like a high school class that don't know much English, and a primary class that know tons. So like you have to sort of adapt. Like, and every placement is different as well. You could have a class of 20 kids, a class of 55 kids. You could be teaching science, you could be teaching English. Like, but these principles feed through all of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what you're teaching. Those are those teaching principles feed through anything that you're doing. Okay. So that's why they're so good. Right. There's 3 ways to a breakthrough of change. 3 ways to change. This is life coaching now. I'm your life coach. Does anyone like Tony Robbins? Yeah? I love Tony Robbins. Does anyone not know Tony Robbins? Does anyone hate Tony Robbins? Oh, no one hates him? Okay. He has got a lot of haters. Right, this will be very, very quick. Okay, so 3 ways to change or a breakthrough. So Tony Robbins, I saw him in Orlando. So I went to Orlando, you Americans. It was great, loved it. Drove on the wrong side of the road, got fined. It was a very stressful time. But I went to a conference and Tony Robbins was there. And he said there's 3 ways to a breakthrough. We have been doing all these things to you or with you as you've been here. So the first one starts with a st. Second one starts with a st. And the third one starts with a st. I used to teach this, I taught this in the training of the trainers last time, but I changed it up. So this will be valuable for you. Okay. So the first one is state. The second one is strategy. And the third one is story. Okay. So you change your story, you change your life. You change your story, you change your identity. You change your strategy, you might change your life if you fulfill that strategy. And if you change your state, then potentially you could execute your strategy and change your story. Okay, so everyone has a story. My name is Mike Maitland. I come from Scotland. When I was younger, I actually... Are my kids gone? They're gone. They're left. Okay. When I was younger, I actually was addicted to cannabis, which you don't know, for 3.5 years. And every weekend I got drunk. And I got to the point where I got very, very low. I got very, very depressed. And the point where I realized something that I needed to change was where I wanted to cry and I couldn't. Like, my mind was so messed up that I couldn't even cry about my life. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm so sad, but I can't cry. So I thought, okay, I need to change my story. And so I gave up cannabis. I gave up alcohol. So I haven't drunk since 26th of December 2000. I haven't drunk any alcohol. And I gave up smoking. I smoked 10 cigarettes a day. And everything changed for me. Everything changed for me, okay? Now, I used a strategy to change my story. And my story's changed since then. I've got a lot more confidence. I had no confidence then at that point either. And I went away and I did a mission for a church. And I taught for 2 years on the streets of Leeds. People that I didn't know, gained a lot of confidence there. And I changed my story. But every one of us has a story and identity, okay? When you come to Thailand, you know the story I told you about Chris. He had no self-esteem. What you don't know about Chris was that his apartment, his house was a tip, absolute tip. Like plates that were moldy, like everywhere, like rubbish everywhere. His whole house was like his mind, okay? And when he came to Thailand, it didn't really change his story. He had moved countries, but he kept the same story, okay? But when he went back to England, his story changed because he became interesting, and then his self-esteem arose. Okay, so this is the most powerful. If you change your story, then you change your life. And story is also the hardest to change. It's the hardest to change because you're shifting your identity. But by coming to Thailand, you've already done it. You've already changed part of your story. You're getting a lot more experience. And story is changed through experience. Strategy is changed through tactics. Tactics. Strategy changes you because you make a strategy. Okay, I'm going to be a Tefl teacher. That's your strategy. What tactics are you going to employ? I'm going to go in Tefl heaven, which is a really good tactic. I recommend it to all your friends. But also it's a really good tactic because it forces you to a certain set of principles that you would find difficult to do by yourself, because you've got the support of your fellow trainees and you've got the support of the company, and you go in and go happy-go-lucky, which is basically what I did. And I got fired in the first place that I was in, and they didn't train me properly, and I had the worst time. So my strategy was terrible. I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone. Even my Thai assistant didn't like me. I thought I was a nice guy until I worked for this company. And then I thought, man, I must not be a good guy because no one likes me. And it was really because of other things around me. So my strategy was that. I came back, I got trained, had a better strategy, and then I was a good teacher. So then I realized, it wasn't me after all. It was them. Anyway, so, or maybe that's what I told myself, but help me. So strategy. Now the other thing is state. Now let me tell you something interesting. 10% of people who book don't come. What? They pay 500 quid and then they decide to not get it, just not come. They lose their money. Some people have come and paid the whole amount and then went back home a few days in. It's not really their strategy. It might be a bit of their story, but it's their state. It's their state. They're not prepared. They've not prepared themselves. They're not in a situation where they're ready for this, so they've not really fully employed their strategy. All right, so motion creates emotion. So right now, if I told you guys to stand up, and I'm not going to do it though, because we're almost finished, but if I told you guys to stand up, jiggle yourself around, you know how you hate when presenters do that? It's really annoying when you've been sitting and you've been listening to someone and they're like, okay, everyone looks a bit dead, everyone stand up, jiggle yourself around. You're like, oh, I can't be bothered, because you want to stay in the same state. But they're trying to change your state, trying to motivate you. Okay, so motion creates emotion. So if you're sitting depressed, if you try and smile when you're depressed, it'll actually help you, supposedly according to Tony Robbins. Okay, so so I don't know if that's valuable for you or not, but by coming here, you're changing your story and you're changing your identity. The strategy you employed was coming through Tefl Heaven, which means you employ lots of tactics and principles. And the state of mind is that even though you might have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that has not stopped you coming. Because sometimes it does stop people coming and they end up going home because they're too homesick. All right, thank you, that's the end.